So recently, Cooper went on a trip to Pennsylvania to the Martin Guitar Factory, and unbeknownst to anybody else, came back with some very expensive souvenirs from the trip. And we're going to tell you all about them, so stay tuned. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name is Chris McKee.
And I'm Cooper Greenberg.
And we're here with Alamo Music Center in San Antonio, Texas. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn on notifications, like our videos, do all that cool stuff. If you want to support the channel, visit our spring store link below for custom swag. And check out our podcast, the Fretboard Confessional, wherever you get podcasts with new episodes recording actually today. So, stick around and stay tuned for that. I have a feeling we'll be talking more about this particular Martin Factory trip that you got to do. So, sounded pretty awesome.
It was fantastic. One, I mentioned it in our last video with the Shawn Mendes when we were talking Martins. Thank you to everybody at Martin. It was so fun. We were there picking out wood for our next run of customs. They're going to be a little while.
Stay tuned for that.
Probably see you in a year.
Yeah.
But we have 2 different designs that are coming. We can talk about. I'll talk about it more on the podcast. It'll be very apparent when they come in because we're going to be showing them off.
Yeah, if you want to know what's coming, you now have to listen to the podcast. See how that works?
Yeah. Cross promotion. So we were there.
These however, were made really quickly.
Super quick. I picked out the woods myself, and they just
just get the bandsaw out. Yeah.
So yeah, we finished the whole wood picking process. You know how that goes. You've done it before. It was super fun. We got 20 guitars on order, and then we went back in the office to sign some paperwork, and
they're like, you sign your life away and your mortgage.
By the way, look at the wall behind you, and they had some really cool stuff. One of which being this one, and I was asking Scott in the custom shop, how do they choose for like kind of customs that they're just gonna make to have available?
Yeah.
They had 3 12-fret dreadnoughts in there. So I was like, what's the deal with the 12-fret dreads? Obviously this is a 12-fret dreadnought as seen by the peanut shape. But he said that they just...
It's a good name for that guitar.
It's peanut because it is anything but a peanut. It is huge. But he said that they just get on a kick. He's like, we were talking about 12-fret dreadnoughts. We hadn't done any in a while, and they're cool guitars, and so we did some cool stuff. There was a 45 style 12-fret dreadnought that was about $10,000, maybe 11. I don't think that was in the cards for us. And then they had one that was...
Not after getting 20 guitars.
Yeah, not after 20 guitars. They did have I believe it was a Engelmann Spruce Cocobolo that was very cool. But this one was the one that struck me for a couple of reasons. It's 28 style, it's kind of HD 28, 12-fret, vintage style. But it's got the Madagascar Rosewood, which, to my understanding, will not really be available from the custom shop for quite some time. I think they kind of had to put a stop on the use of it because it's really hard to get a hold of, very rare. And
well, I mean, have you ever heard of the penguins of Madagascar?
Love those guys.
They make everything more complicated.
They do.
That has nothing to do with the tone wood whatsoever.
But it looks somewhat Brazilian-esque, when you look at it.
Yeah.
It's just very pretty. It's not the most figured or flamed thing, but it is a very interesting looking wood. Sorry, it's
off-gassing.
Got a lot going on here. So
if you don't, we've said this before. New nitro guitars, like they generate dust or they attract dust. It's crazy.
Adirondack top. So this is officially Maddie.
There you go.
You feel me on that? But pretty nice 28 series appointments. Got the HD zigzag. Yeah, it's just a beautiful guitar. It does have the kind of modified V neck shape, slotted headstock because it's 12-fret Waverleys, very vintage style. I've been in love with a 12-fret dread ever since I was showing Chris. One of my favorite songwriters ever, Sturgill Simpson, has a custom, really cool 12-fret dreadnought.
Kind of a D18 custom,
yeah, it's
right?
it's a D18 12-fret. It's really, really cool. So I already kind of like the guitars themselves. I think they got really cool history, like the Ditson sort of, it's cool historically, very rare wood that will not be found. It's few and far between. Adirondack top, scalped Adirondack bracing.
It's a good kind of representation of the early dreadnoughts they did during that Ditson era, really before the 14 fret was the thing. And with the combination of Addy, and it would have been Brazilian rosewood at the time, but a very close approximation of Madagascar.
And it's got all the herringbone, on top because it's HD-esque. It's got the diamonds and squares inlay.
Long saddle.
Yeah, long saddle, which is super cool. It's just it's a very cool, unique guitar. This is also a very unique guitar.
This is very, very different. So, big Dreadnought, 14 fret with, and we'll just call this Blondie. So Peanut and Blondie.
Peanut and Blondie.
So talk to us about the specs on this. It's Engelmann Spruce top.
Engelmann Spruce top, and so this guitar was not in that room. This was not up on the custom wall of things that were available.
Before you continue.
Yeah.
So in some of the offices of some of the executives at Taylor, and they have a little alcove with a guitar in there, those are supposed to stay in there, Cooper.
I know.
This was not supposed to leave that space.
One interesting note for you, there was an EM18 in one of those offices.
I know, I've seen it.
Yeah.
That's why when we had that one, I was like, I'm buying that guitar.
I talked about that. I was like, my man Chris, he needed one of these. So after we did our factory tour, after we decided that this was going to be the only custom that we took home from the factory, we toured the museum, and we walked out of the museum, and this guitar was hanging in a case, like in a glass case. And Patrick, who was there with me, was like, and what's this one? And they're like, oh, that's cool. We built 3 of those, and they had some buyers from Japan that were there the week before.
Oh, that makes sense, actually.
And they, I guess they took one of the other ones, and the other, I had no idea what happened to the third one. This was the last one that was available, but it was one of 3. And they said, you just got to play it. It's cool. It's a Canon. And so Patrick strummed a G chord on it, and he said, we're going to take this one as well.
Yeah. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Just
a
a G chord.
Very obsessed. So this is Engelmann Spruce top. The back and sides, they called it Alaskan Cedar. In parentheses, it said Hinoki. And I looked up Hinoki, and it's a cypress.
Not an anime character.
Not an anime character. So it is, I thought, for a second, I was like, is that an all spruce guitar? That's dumb. But it is not an all spruce guitar. It is what I
The neck's maple?
The neck is maple, but it has that really cool rosewood stripe on there.
Man,
Rosewood bound over the whole thing.
Cool.
That's one of my favorite things from one of the customs you got before, that curly maple triple O.
Yeah.
That stripe.
Yeah.
And, it was similarly blonde and very bright, but I loved that. And yeah, Patrick fell in love with this guitar, and he has been telling me for the last week that he just wants to buy it for himself. And I'm not sure if he's going to do that or not, but as of today, shooting this, he has not.
To go with his other white guitar?
Yes.
Yeah. The gold hardware looks good too.
Gold Waverly.
I would sometimes be like, on the gold, but it really works on this.
It's interesting that they got on this one gold foil, gold narrow logo with nickel tuners, and
silver
you got the
on here.
silver with the.
It's good contrast.
It is cool. This guitar is just had something a little special kind of vibe that I don't think we wanted to let go of. I will also say, the wood on the back and sides, whether you want to call it Alaskan Cedar or Hinoki, which has absolutely nothing to do with Alaska or cedar, to my understanding. Who knows? We can get more info on that.
Turns out Hinoki is Inuit for cedar.
For cedar, yeah. The wood is what is used to make very high-end sushi boxes. And the original design for this guitar was a sushi NAM guitar that they inlaid leaves and stuff on the pickguard, and all on the fretboard were little pieces of sushi. And I think it was started its life as the sushi guitar, and then I don't think that was a big success. So they took the bones that made
I like
it special.
Sushi, but I could think of different inlays.
Do you want a little fatty tuna on the 12th fret, So it took
some wasabi on the headstock.
good part, good parts of the sushi guitar. And it's just something pretty interesting and pretty cool, and I think it has a unique sound.
Totally makes sense to me the minute you said that it was Japanese buyers.
Japanese buyers.
Because there's an aesthetic. I've talked about this a little bit before, but particularly if you look at any Japanese luthiers, the guitars that they're making have a unique aesthetic to them that I really, really like. And particularly with some of the blonde wood, I could see that going, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I think it's the very clean lines.
A lot of clean lines. We've talked about like bear claw is not typically preferred.
Yeah.
in Japanese markets, but in European markets they like it.
Yeah.
You know, there's just a different aesthetic choice. So having this just so clean and contrasted, and just it's beauty in the minimalism that
Yeah.
this guitar has,
Also long saddle on that one, which is kind of cool.
and long sustain, which we'll talk about after the
Yes.
demo.
So we both played both because they're both cool.
They are. Check it out. There you go. I have to say, two very different guitars.
Yeah.
Very, very different guitars. There are, I think, pros and cons to both
Yeah.
of them, and I really liked them for some of the unique aspect of the tone that they had. The Blondie over
Yeah.
there had incredible sustain.
Yeah.
You know, it ended up bringing up notions that I was talking to the guys about, of like my Gibson Les Paul, which is an electric guitar that can sustain forever. You know, it sustained a lot. And it was really punchy. And understanding that it has Engelmann spruce for the top is also interesting. Engelmann's not known like Adirondack to be this huge, dynamically powerful cannon of a guitar, but with everything going on with the Alaskan Cypress Hinoki, or Alaskan Cedar Hinoki Cypress, whatever, back and sides
Yeah.
pairing, it's an incredibly powerful guitar.
Yeah. I think too well, first of all, the finish on the neck feels super nice. The craftsmanship of like that stripe on there is just very cool. When Patrick picked this guitar up and told me that this was going to be one of the ones that I was supposed to be choosing the guitars, all right, but he was
supposed
to be spectator. He hit the G chord. The guys at Martin said the same exact thing happened with the buyers from the week before. They played a chord on it, and they're like, this is just awesome. He referred to it as piano-like, and I think it's because it's just super balanced across the board, very direct and pretty sound. And Patrick is a piano guy. And so obviously anything reminds him of a piano at all, he's going to take it.
Yeah.
This guitar is like, I feel piano-like in a different way. It's like the 9-foot slamming grand with the extreme bass and volume. That is a whole different beast.
I really like this guitar. I'm going to talk about what I don't like on this guitar. And actually, I don't know if that's a great thing. Something I struggled with. And I decided not to start playing again and left it in the demo. Because it's a 12-fret neck and it's got this volute on the back, and I've noticed this with some other vintage guitars from Martin, it's kind of chunky right here at like the 1st and 2nd fret. And it's okay, it's just I'm not used to it.
Yeah.
And then I've played plenty of 12-fret guitars, and when you reach up here, it's a reach, but it's okay. But since it's a Dreadnought, it's a big guitar for 12-fret, and I struggled getting up there and hitting that. That being said, before we were in here demoing them, you brought me this guitar on the sales floor, and I just sat for, I don't know.
It was a little bit, yeah.
It could have been 20 or 30 minutes. It could have been an hour. I don't know how long it was, because I could have played this guitar all day long. But I enjoyed playing this guitar so much, it was making me emotional. Like, it was a thing.
It's special, for sure.
I'm a strong enough man to admit that a man can cry. No, it was really, I was playing it and just like, this is special. This is a really, really phenomenal guitar that has something cool in it. And honestly, I can quantify some of that. You know, it's got a beautiful Adirondack top that, unlike a lot of new guitars that we've played with Adirondack tops, does not feel tight, does not feel like it needs to loosen up. It really feels like it's already come into its own. It's balanced really well with wonderful overtones to the Madagascar Rosewood. And then, like all 12 frets, the geometry has changed to the point where and this is probably why the Addy top just feels so loose already.
Yeah.
Moving that bridge down and having this giant peanut shape, it has such a wonderful, rich, warm tone to it and response. It's so dynamic.
Yeah. No, it's a really cool guitar. I knew walking in and seeing that wall that I was going to want a 12-fret Dread. And I'd like to think that if you were there, this would be the one of those that you would have gotten to, because it kind of encapsulates what we like about a Martin Dread, you know.
And, you know, it reminds me of the vintage series 00028s that they had were very much like this. This is just a Dread version of that guitar.
Yeah.
I loved that guitar, so it just makes sense that I would love this guitar. But yeah, I really love this guitar.
Yeah, it's super cool. I think if you're a big chord player, bluegrass person, somebody that plays in a very...
Everybody watching, do me a favor, don't buy this guitar.
Yeah, don't get it.
Just don't buy this guitar. Let's just let it hang out long enough.
We gotta let it hang for a little bit.
For me to get it.
No, yeah, it's a certain kind of player for sure. It is, even though it is a 1 3/4 inch nut, it does feel big. It feels bigger than that.
Yeah, it's just the chunkiness right there. This profile, because the veloute's coming down and it's in that V-shaped neck.
Comparing it to this, like the
it's
sleekest, it could not be more different in terms of the feel.
And it's a hand-carved neck, but it's not uncomfortable. It takes getting used to.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah, but I love it. It's one thing to have two guitars that people here want to own. That should tell you something.
Yeah.
So phenomenal, and more to come because we've got stuff cooking at Martin. So
they're in the oven right now
on slow roast. It's like a Texas brisket, slow and slow.
Smoky.
They'll come in when they come in. So awesome. So you enjoyed the trip overall.
I loved it, and I'll tell you the nitty-gritty details
on the podcast. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, if you're interested in either of these guitars, these are the only ones we have. So you want to make sure that you check out our website, which is what, Cooper?
Going to be alamomusic.com.
You're getting so good with that.
Thank you.
And we have photos there. We have all the specs. So if you want to see detailed information about the guitars, you can chat with someone live. You can call in, email us, whatever, and we can send this to your home where it can be home. For now, I'd like to take it home with me. If you're new to our channel, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, like our videos. I keep coming back for more. At the end of the day, the best guitar in the world is the one that you're playing. I played this one today, making it the best guitar in the world. Keep playing. We'll see you